Welcome to Horrid and Vicious, a true crime podcast. I'm Coda.
And I'm Candy.
And this is episode 3. What happened to Brooke Bennett in Juvenile 1?
Our trigger warnings for this are sexual abuse of a minor / pedophilia, murder, and mentions of sex trafficking. So to get started with Brooke Bennett, Brooke was born on July 12th, 1995 in Randolph, Vermont, to parents James Bennett and Cassandra Adams. She had an older sister and 3 brothers. The people around her said that Brooke was a bright, outgoing, friendly, bubbly girl with a contagious smile, and she was even in her local Girl Scouts troop. The assistant principal at her school would say that when she would get up to mischief and be sent to his office, she always showed up with a gleam in her eye. One of her teachers, who was also the mother of one of her best friends, referred to Brooke as a fun, energetic, lively spirit, always motivated to try new things, not a mean bone in her body. Brooke's favorite shows were known to be Hannah Montana and SpongeBob, and she loved to read. And then, like a lot of kids in the 2000s, she liked to use MySpace to talk to her friends after school. And she also had a dog named Scruffy and a cat named Lily that she loved dearly. And I actually had a cat named Lily growing up, so that hit home.
Scruffy is such a good dog name.
It's so cute.
It's so cute.
And then on June 25th of 2008, like I said last week, this one is more recent, Brooke had just finished 7th grade and she was enjoying the summer off. And that morning, one of her friends, the person referred to as Juvenile 1 or J1 to protect her privacy, told Brooke about a pool party going on that day and that her schoolyard crush would be there. So she had texted her. It was like a conversation, not just like a quick thing. It was a whole conversation and like pictures that were supposedly from this guy or something. Brooke's uncle, Michael Jakes, which when you see how it's spelled, I promise I'm saying it right. I checked all the sources. He had driven her to a convenience store called Cumberland Farms and dropped her off. And that was the last time that she was publicly seen. Footage from the store shows him going one direction and Brooke walking the opposite way down the street towards Randolph. When Brooke still wasn't home by around 9 p.m. that evening, she was reported missing by her family. According to some sources, she had told her family she was going to meet one of her friends, and then that her and her friend would be visiting the friend's relative who was in a hospital in New Hampshire, but they lived close to, like, the border there. So it wasn't, like, a faraway hospital or anything.
Right.
The police kind of thought that that was a lie that she had told them. And they looked into the possibility that she was going to meet someone that she had met online since she used MySpace. And there was a post on her MySpace that showed a time of 7:46 a.m. on the 25th that indicated she was meeting someone the day of her disappearance. However, this was debunked later when it was discovered the post was actually made after she had been reported missing after midnight. And the time was manually edited.
Interesting.
Which, I mean, that was kind of a new thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess 2008, like, online stuff had been around, but somebody, like, editing it back and backdating.
Right, to make it look like. And honestly, good on her family for reporting her missing so quickly.
Yeah, it sucks because they didn't know. I mean, it was 9 p.m. and their 12-year-old hadn't come home. But they didn't know that she... You know, they had no reason to be worried until that evening because they were like, well, she still hasn't come back. But this is a pretty small town.
Right.
Like, everybody knows everybody sort of town.
Right.
And then the police were hesitant to label it as a kidnapping. But on June 26th, around 5:30 p.m., they issued the very first Amber Alert in Vermont for the 12-year-old girl, after finding items of clothing that morning that had matched what Brooke was last seen wearing along Route 65.
Oh.
One source did say that one of the things they found was underwear and that it had semen in it, but I only saw that in one source, so I can't say that for certain.
I sure hope not.
And an extensive search was done of the area, but other than the clothes, they didn't find any more clues. That same day, while they were talking to some of her family members, the police asked to examine Michael Jake's computer, which visibly concerned him, and he said that he needed the laptop for work.
Interesting.
Uh-huh.
Suspicious.
Well, they did end up taking the computer, even though he said he needed it, and they actually kind of learned around this time, it was over the course of a few days here, but everyone kind of learned about his past. And it turns out that Michael, who was born in 1966, had a history of sexual assault dating back into the 80s.
Oh, like
And it went starting when he was 18 is how far back it goes.
like he was perpetrating it or it was
He was
being
a
perpetrated?
perpetrator.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So in 1985, he was charged with raping a 15-year-old girl, but he wasn't charged until 1985, but he had been grooming and sexually assaulting her since she was around 11.
Ew.
So, I mean, it started, he's 3 years older than her, so it's also kind of hard to say with, like, a relationship like that where, I mean, he wasn't even 18 until it got brought to light.
Right. And with some
So it's,
states, they have the Romeo and Juliet laws, and I don't know what the
well,
year
and it's one of those
gap
things where he
is.
was sexually assaulting her, but it was, like, it's almost harder to say because they are both, like, kids at the time, and he was 18 when it got found out, but he had been doing
Right.
it for years, but then he was also a teenager,
Right.
so it's kind of hard to
But if he has
100% know.
further history with it, then it's
Yeah.
kind of more easy to say,
Well,
you know.
and those charges were dismissed because the victim chose not to pursue them, probably because it would have been hard to prove, especially in
And
the
a lot
80s.
of victims for their own safety, you know.
And then in 1987, so 2 years later, he's 20 now, he was charged with sexually assaulting a 13-year-old girl, but he
Ew.
received a deferred sentence for some reason. I don't know why.
Because they never charge these predators like they should.
Yeah, let me tell you about it. Even in 1992, when he kidnapped and raped one of his coworkers from his job at Pizza Hut, he was convicted of sexual assault and kidnapping, and he was sentenced to 6 to 20 years in prison, but in 1996 he was out on probation.
That's
So,
so messed up.
sentenced to 6 to 20 years. So 6 is supposed to be the minimum when it's 6
Right.
to 20, right? It's supposed
It,
to be
it
the minimum.
it should be more than that, but yeah, yeah.
But he only served 4.
I hate it. What did he get out on? Good
Yeah,
behavior.
he was being a
Ugh,
good boy, I guess.
that's so
Whatever.
stupid. Okay, you can be a good boy all you want. You still committed a crime.
Yeah. And then while he was out on probation in 1997, he met Denise, who is the sister of Cassandra, Brooke's mother.
Mm.
So that is how he became Brooke's uncle. They both got married in 1998, and in 1999, Cassandra and Michael had a daughter together. And
Terrifying.
yeah, it's not reported if his biological daughter experienced any assault at their father's hands, but we know that other people did. So it doesn't sound like
Terrifying.
he did, but it sounds like, you know, it's almost more messed up. He thinks that or maybe it's because she wasn't old enough for him at that point, because it seems like his range was around like 10,
Mm.
and his daughter was only, I mean, I guess she would have been almost 10 at the time of this occurring, but still,
But
I
still,
don't
when
know.
you grow up and you find something like that out about,
Yeah.
your dad, it's still
Well,
not
and it's one of
good.
those things, I mean, Brooke's father got really upset at Denise, and so did her mother, of course. Like, how did you not know this? Did you know this? Why didn't you, like, tell us not to have our kid around your husband? Or, like, why would you have kids around him, sort of thing.
Right, as anybody
So
would
it's
be
just,
upset. Like, what do you mean you didn't tell anybody when your man has a history of this and our
yeah. And
kids
then,
around him?
I mean, some sources I saw said that Brooke's father kind of didn't want her around him. Like, he kind of, I don't know if he knew the extent of what Michael had done, but it says that he knew, like, a little bit. Like, he kind of was like, that guy is bad. I don't really want you near him. But it was kind of a tough situation because, like, her cousin is there too, you know, her baby cousin and everything. So
Right.
it's kind of a tough, and, like, they all live in the same, like, area. So it's kind of a tough situation.
Yeah, it is. When it's family, it is tough, but man.
Yeah, I mean, and I definitely don't blame the parents at all, but it's so hard to imagine, like, finding out that you let your child be around this person. And especially, I mean, in any case it would be, even if she hadn't died, you would still feel horrible. But then especially to not even be able to have your baby anymore.
Right.
That's
That's
sad.
the worst part.
That's the worst part. But at the very least, thanks to that hard drive found on his computer, Michael was arrested in a separate case of sexual assault of a minor on June 29th of 2008. And it was discovered that he had been sexually assaulting J1, a then 14-year-old girl, since she was around 9.
That's
J1
so gross.
was also, J1 was also made to believe that she was part of a child sex ring called Breckenridge. Just as a side note, it's super weird to me that it's called Breckenridge because that is the name of a ski resort that I have been to.
That is really weird.
Yeah, really awkward to me. And now I'm going to think about this case anytime that I, like, think about skiing.
Or drive past it.
Yeah, well,
Or
it's
see
up
a
in the
sign
mountains, so I
for
don't
it.
drive past it. But
Oh, well, you know, you never know. You could see, like, a sign. You could pass, like, a sign for it.
or, like, people get, I mean, where I live, a lot of people go skiing, so people get, like, what are they called? Like, bumper stickers of the places that they like and stuff like that. There's a million ski resorts around here, though, because I'm near the mountains. Also,
Fair.
anybody that knows, like, Breckenridge Ski Resort automatically knows what state I'm in now.
Just doxed yourself. It's fine.
It's okay. I didn't say specifically. If they wanted to look, if they, like, have the skills, they would be able to find me anyway. I'm not safe enough on the internet.
Neither am I.
But anyway.
Going back to some other unsafe
Going
internet
back to
activities.
Yeah, well, to be fair, like, honestly, she wasn't actually doing anything unsafe on MySpace. She was just talking to
No,
her
but he
friends.
was.
He was. So Juvenile 1 was terrified to tell the police about what was happening to her because she was convinced that this group called Breckenridge would hurt her family. And she actually even told them one of their family pets had been killed before.
Oh,
One, like a dog, to show her that they were serious about it.
that's so fucked up.
She had no idea that that group did not exist. And
Oh.
she was so brainwashed that it took the police a while to get through to tell her the truth, which is that there was no Breckenridge child sex ring. It was all Michael.
Well, good.
And
I'm
he
glad
had-
that it wasn't.
Yeah. He had multiple email accounts that he would use to make J1 believe that it was separate men. And he would use them to tell her that the group needed her to commit specific sex acts with Michael or that her family would be killed.
What a
And-
sick person.
Yeah, he would say, like, your mom will be killed, blah, 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 like, just terrible things. And then he even, like, it started with, like, a phone call telling her, like, look under her bed, and there was, like, a note under her bed that was like, you have been chosen for this child sex ring.
That's so
And then
gross.
it just got worse. And there was even one time where, like, so he was saying that he was her trainer for the sex ring. Well, not he was saying. They were saying that he was her trainer. And that she thought that he was a victim too, and that he was being forced into it, actually. So that's
That's
also
that's
terrible.
So gross. That's so
Yeah.
gross.
So they, like, he even, like, once had gotten stabbed. I don't know if it was that he stabbed himself or if he got stabbed. Apparently he told the police it was like he had a hitchhiker and they stabbed him and he went to the hospital. But then when he talked to J1, he said that it was one of the Breckenridge guys had stabbed him.
Well, I hope
It
he
was
gets
weird.
stabbed again.
But, I mean, all of that stuff just made it so that she really believed. Also, she was 9 years old when it started. So, like, already gonna have a little bit easier time convincing her that something's real that isn't.
Yeah.
And then
'Cause she's
all
a
of
child.
these things. Yeah, she was very, very convinced of this. And, like, I mean, her family dog died. Like, she came
Right.
home and found the dog hanging in the basement.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was messed up.
What the fuck?
It's honestly.
I hope he gets stabbed again.
Heartbreaking.
I hope he gets
What
stabbed
happened to this
again.
poor little girl? And she's the one that, she lived. She's got all this trauma she has to live with.
She's probably got survivor's guilt too. It's a very real thing, and it's very, very, very sad.
Well, and you're gonna see why she almost definitely has survivor's guilt in a second here. She was well under his thumb by the time this happened, and he used that as an advantage to get her to help him lure his niece, Brooke, to his home. So J1 was under the impression that Brooke would now be joining in the sex ring and be forced into it, but she felt helpless to stop it or tell the police because there were threats to her loved ones.
And she was also a child.
And she was also a child. She was 14. So one thing I will also say about that is I did see something where Brooke's dad was, like, suing Denise, and then he also was trying to, like, sue J1 or something because, like, she knew but didn't stop it or something. And he was like, I know she's a kid, but at some point, like, you gotta... And I was like...
No, she's a kid.
I do understand why he feels that way. I absolutely understand. And it's valid that he feels that way because his daughter died. So but I understand why he feels that way because this could have been prevented in a lot of ways.
Yes,
but I also cannot blame J1 at all because this is a child who fully believes that this is happening. And she has, in her head, proof of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The dog died. This guy got stabbed. Like, to her, this is the realest thing. This is her life.
Mm-hmm. And it's
so
really...
she has no reason to think it's not real because, she's witnessed death from it.
Yeah, and she's a scared little girl at the end of the day. Like, I understand that
she's 14.
Grieving,
she's a kid.
And I understand that she could have spoken up and it could have been prevented. But unfortunately, when you have a child that is scared, they don't act rationally because they're a scared child. So I can understand why he feels the way that he does. I can understand that he's grieving, and I can understand that he's probably still angry about what happened to his daughter. But you have to have empathy for the other victim in this scenario.
Exactly. It's not her fault.
No.
She was, like, a part of it. She was, like, technically involved, but she was a kid forced into that.
She was a victim,
and I don't think she ever would have willingly done this.
No.
So, I mean, she's probably, like, 30 now? Or more? I don't even know.
Probably. I don't know. We messed up the math
my point being, like, yeah, I know. We really messed that up. I kept saying 20 years, and it's been 30.
Yeah, and I'm still mad about it.
Yeah, that's valid. This one's a lot more recent.
Yeah, and this one is a lot more rage-inducing.
Yeah, listen to this. So, on the morning of June 25th, after making sure that the cameras and the store employees at Cumberland Farms caught them going in different directions, Michael Jakes met Brooke further down the street and told her that she needed to come with him as part of the pool party. Something said that he said it was at his house. I don't know the specifics of it. Something said that it was at a house, and something said that he had an apartment. But considering he was married with a child and they're in a small town, I don't think he was in an apartment.
No, I think
it was a house. So I'm a little confused by the articles that said apartment, honestly.
Unless
and
he had an apartment on the side.
Yeah, like, but how's the pool party at the apartment?
Well, they have, like, public pools at apartments.
Not all of them.
Some of them. Most of them.
I don't know, but some said house
Regardless.
and some said apartment, is my
maybe,
point. So
maybe...
I feel like it's more likely a house.
Yeah, and I agree.
You also don't throw, like, a pool party at an apartment, usually, unless it's, like, a small group of people, which is not a party.
Yeah. But still.
Yeah,
I
I mean, I'm
some
not
men
100% sure.
some people I should say that cheat on their spouses will have a separate apartment just so they can have their, person they cheat with over and, their spouse doesn't come home and find out. But, you know, I don't think
I'm
that's
going to
the case
explain
here.
to you later why that's not the case.
I was gonna say that's not the case.
But that's going to be
Um,
something, what I'm going to tell you is something I am not going to include in the podcast, just so you know. But it's something that I
okay,
want to tell you personally about this case that broke me. Um,
okay.
anyway, so he had J1 with him after they told her they need to go to the pool party. He had J1 with him, so it was more convincing, and they all went back to his home. And then the two girls just sat and watched TV for a while. And at some point, while they're there, Michael drugs Brooke and tells her that he wants to show her a magic trick in his bedroom. And he tells J1 to leave. And she leaves, at the time oblivious that she would be the last person other than Brooke's killer to see her alive.
Ugh.
And in his bedroom, Michael proceeded to rape Brooke, and then he strangled and suffocated her with a plastic grocery bag as well.
Ugh. 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 Gross. Gross. Gross.
And a week after her disappearance, Brooke's body was discovered in a shallow grave on July 2nd, just 1 mile away from Michael's home. And it actually took until October of 2008 for Michael to be indicted. But unfortunately, that 3 to 4 months was nothing compared to the long road ahead, because he wasn't actually sentenced until 2014, 10 years
What?
ago. Less than
What?
10 years ago, technically, because it's not June yet, or May yet. He was
What?
sentenced in May of 2014.
Why the fuck
Almost
did
a full 6 years after her death.
Why the fuck did it take them so long to sentence him?
I don't know. I think there were a lot of issues where they were originally trying to go for the death penalty, and then he was able to take a plea deal, I guess.
I don't think
And all this
that
stuff.
people.
I also assume he probably tried to say he didn't do it for a very long time.
Oh, I'm sure he did. And this is a
and
little
then
bit
they had to
off
gather
topic.
all their evidence and all that.
A little bit off topic, but I don't think that people that commit crimes like that should be able to take plea deals. I really don't. I really
Sometimes I
don't.
think the problem is that they don't always have enough evidence.
Ugh.
You know, they
Whatever.
might have circumstantial stuff, but you have to have solid evidence
You do, you
to
do.
actually make sure you can get the death penalty.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I'm not saying that necessarily I mean, I do, but
Yeah.
not necessarily that I want everybody that does stuff like this
Well,
to get the death penalty.
I
I
will say
do,
he did get life
but-
without possibility of parole with
as
his
he
plea deal still.
should,
So he's not getting out.
as he
but-
should, because he should not be getting out, and he should have never been let
Yeah.
out.
I mean, I think the thing
In
is
the first
that
place.
they might not have necessarily had physical evidence that he killed her. They had a lot of physical evidence that he was looking at child porn and had made child porn.
Well, he should still
Because-
get life in prison without parole
Yeah.
for that. It doesn't
They
always
also
have to just be
found
murder.
what's it called? They found these tapes in this swamp area by his house, and they were tapes of him sexually assaulting J1.
That's terrible. That is, ugh. That
And
makes
then
me
he
wanna
obviously
vomit.
had a bunch of stuff on his computer too, not just the emails and all that.
I think that should be enough for the death penalty, actually. If you
Honestly.
find that much CP on somebody's computer, there's recordings of them physically doing it, I think that's enough for the death penalty, personally. I know I'm not a judge. I know I don't understand how the legal system really truly works, but I think if you're that sick, you need to be put down.
Euthanized.
You need to be euthanized, because there's really there's no excuse for it. There really isn't, and it makes me sick to my stomach, and I just don't think that those people should be allowed to breathe.
I'm with you on that, honestly.
Yeah. They shouldn't have let
It's-
him out the first fucking time.
Honestly. And that he was sentenced to 6 to 20 years. So the minimum was supposed to be 6, but honestly he should have served the 20.
Uh-huh.
Like, and then he didn't even serve the full 6.
I hope somebody releases him out into Gen Pop one day. I really do. If
I
they
don't
didn't
know
already.
exactly. I don't know exactly that much details about that part. Unfortunately, there's not like a whole lot of details that I could find, at least, about like what actually went on during the trial. I assume they showed what they found, and like not all of what they found, but more or less like the, what's the words? Like that, I'm sure they showed like where Brooke's body was found and things like that.
They showed the evidence they had, and
That
I'm sure
evidence,
that they
yeah.
brought up everything that they found. They may not have shown
And
everything,
then I think
but
one
I'm
of the
sure they brought it
problems
up.
too was it was one of those things where if J1 had, like, I think maybe she didn't testify, so that might be part of why they couldn't do the death penalty.
Probably. I'm
And
sure if she did, they would have given it
yeah,
to
I
him.
think the only reason that they probably didn't have her testify was just to protect her identity, sort of thing. So
Yeah.
she originally had, like, given this, she testified originally to them, like, this is what happened but she didn't, like, go to them and say that. They found all this stuff and they arrested him and they were like, we need to talk to you. And she was like,
Which,
this has been going on since I was a baby. Basically, I was 9.
and for a
Here's what's
child,
happened.
having the police come up to you and be like, we need to talk to you, that's terrifying in itself. You
Well, and
know?
she's like, and she thinks this group is gonna kill her, and
And her family.
they had to convince her. Like, it took her a while to talk because they had to convince her, like, this isn't real. I know that this is what your world has been, and this is what you think. Unfortunately, like, well, not unfortunately, but at the same time, like, unfortunately for what she thinks, it's just not the reality of the situation, which
And
is such a hard thing to,
I
like,
have a feeling
come
that
to
she
terms with.
probably, yes, and I'm sure she probably had a feeling that, like, she was going to be in trouble if she said something. Like, it wasn't
Yeah.
just going to be Michael getting in trouble, she was going to get in trouble too. And she didn't want to because she
Well,
really didn't need
and
to get in trouble.
she also, like, she thought that he was a victim most of the time. But I would also say that she probably started to realize when she left Brooke there and nobody saw her again and he never told anybody she was at his house, sort of
Yeah,
thing. She hopefully started to realize, like,
I'm sure she
this
did,
guy,
but
like, killed my friend.
yeah. Ugh.
I will say, Brooke's family, while they were not able to get, like, the justice that they wanted, because they did want the death penalty for him, they finally saw some form of it, and they made sure to tell him exactly what they thought of him when they were in
Good.
court.
Good.
Her grandmother said, "Rot in prison, Michael. Hell is waiting for you."
Go
And
off.
then her older sister, Savannah, told him that he was a waste of flesh and that after the
Queen.
trial, he no longer exists to her.
Queen, 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 queen,
To which I
queen.
say, as she should.
Queen,
Yeah.
as she should. Queen, absolute queen. A waste of
And
flesh.
yeah, waste of flesh. I thought that was so good. Like, it's not waste of space or whatever. It's waste of
Waste
flesh.
of flesh.
Like
And-
you are
and she's
a
right.
waste of a being.
She is completely correct.
Absolutely. Fuck
Waste
you, Michael
of flesh.
Jakes. Why is your name pronounced Jakes when it's spelled Jacques? Huh?
'Cause
Weirdo.
he is a weirdo. He's a fucking weirdo.
Everything is wrong with him.
Everything. He's a waste of
Everything.
flesh. He's a waste of flesh.
And unfortunately, I don't have more information that I can really say here, other than the parts that I don't want to include on the podcast because I found
Fair.
out more than I should know.
Understandable. I'm still thinking about the fact that she called him a waste of flesh. Because
She's so funny for
it's
that.
so good. Not even funny, she's like accurate. Like that's
I'm-
fully what he should have been told.
I 100% agree. Like, waste of flesh is so true.
And the
And apparently
grandma
everybody really grasped onto the hell is waiting for you.
Yeah, she said enjoy prison because it's about to get a lot worse for you.
And then another thing is that Brooke's parents, did not stay together, but they both still, like, what's the word?
talk?
They talk about it, I think, and I know that they attended events like for this kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Right.
I got these pictures. Now I can't remember what it was called, but of like her dad with some supporters like walking for
Okay.
a thing. I'm gonna look real
Like
quick.
like a charity walk, like a 5K or something that they do to raise awareness.
Yeah, it was. Let me see. So, where is the photo? Okay, I mean, I found the picture, but where's the information about what the walk is? Come on, y'all. And I'm gonna post it, of course. So he walked with supporters following a plea hearing. And then it's interesting, they have these like a couple pictures of him like walking with these supporters, and in one of them her mom's in the background. Like she was there, but nobody took pictures of her. I don't know why.
Maybe she didn't want pictures being taken of her.
I know she's in the background of one.
Well, some people
I
just
don't
don't
know.
like the attention of having like a camera in your face all the time,
Yeah.
especially like when you're just genuinely trying to
Yeah.
do something.
It was just like, it was honestly even hard for me to say. They were like with her mother in the like Brooke's father in the middle, blah blah, mother in the back, and I was like, there's like three women back there, and then I realized which one it was after looking at other pictures of her.
Hmm.
But it's, yeah, I mean, a sad situation, and he, to my knowledge, they've like done all kinds of things. He's tried to get justice in any way he can. Obviously, like we said, I don't really like that he went after the 14-year-old girl. I don't think that it's her fault.
Neither do I, but I mean, I can understand that he has a lot of rage and sadness inside
Yeah.
of him, and he may not know where to place it.
Yeah.
And that may be sort of his way of placing it, which I don't think is correct because J1 is obviously a victim as well. And one day the same thing may have happened to her, and I think she had probably had that realization, and that's something that's really hard to deal with when something like that happens and you survived through it, but your friend didn't. You do carry a lot of
Yeah.
guilt. And she probably does blame herself. I'm sure she probably still has nightmares. She's probably still haunted by this whole thing, just like he is.
Yeah, and like I told you before, these people are like distant family of one of my friends, where my friend doesn't really know these people, but people in her family do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of sad to think about, like, how they're dealing with, I mean, and it's such a betrayal with,
It
like, one of
is.
your own family members, even though he married into the family, still, like, that's your family.
But
And, like,
it
it's
normally
just sad.
is. It's
It
normally
is
people
often
close to
family
people.
members,
It's
yeah.
not, sometimes it is strangers, but in cases like this, it often is. And it often is somebody that gets with a woman and either they know that one of their siblings has kids, or the woman already has a kid, or they have their own kids.
Well, and then,
It's just sick.
I mean, Brooke went because she was told that her crush was going to be at this pool party.
Right.
So
And
she was just trying to go see her crush, and then she's hanging out with, like, her friend, and obviously, like, he used J1 as, like, just, what's the word? Like, he used her as, like, a
bait.
chess piece, like, bait, and he just used her to get Brooke there, and she was just being played as well. They were both played by him.
Yeah, and it's really sad, it's really messed up, and it's disgusting, and I hope that they let him out into Gen Pop, because that's what he deserves. I think that the details of his case should be leaked to Gen Pop in prison, and I think that they should let him out into
Yeah.
Gen
I
Pop
think with
and turn their backs
if
around.
if he ever does somehow get out of prison, I think that with how hard her dad was going, like, for her after, I think that he really, like, he will kill Michael for sure.
Yeah, and
And
You
I
know
wouldn't blame
what?
him.
I wouldn't blame him either, because, like I'm saying, let him in Gen Pop and see what happens.
Hmm.
Because I think we both
Everybody
know
can
what'll
agree.
happen.
Yeah, even people who are criminals agree. Like,
This
crimes
guy
against children are the worst crimes.
and this guy needs to go.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I mean, it's not even just like he looked like, which it's terrible to even look at it, right? To look
Yeah, oh
at
yeah.
CP. But he didn't even look at it. He was one of the people making it, and he like, I mean, the lengths that he went to get this poor girl so like brainwashed, really is the only term for it.
Yeah, it's fully
Like, he
brainwashing.
brainwashed her
Yeah.
into believing in this thing that didn't exist just because he really wanted to have sex with a child.
Which is so disgusting. And the fact that I just, I genuinely think that the CP should have been enough for them to give him the death penalty. I really do. I know that some people may not agree with that, but when there's
Well, and of
literally
course, like,
video evidence of him
I
committing a
think that
crime
like
against a
killing
child,
somebody is one of the worst things that you can do,
uh-huh,
because if not the very worst thing almost, because I mean, you don't have life anymore.
right.
Like, there's no coming back from that
Nope.
sort of thing. So like, just like how him killing her was like terrible that he did that to her. Like, that's part of why it's so terrible. He did this and he murdered her, sort of thing. So obviously, like, killing somebody is a horrible thing. But then I don't want these people to ever have the chance to do something like that again. And technically, while he's alive, there's always a chance.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Because
Unless they
there
put him in
is
Gen Pop.
always the slimmest chance, whether it's slim or not. Like, there's always some chance of them doing it again.
Well, we can't
when
exactly
they-
trust the
after they've
legal
done it once.
system,
Yeah, well, and
considering
obviously,
that
like,
they let him
he-
out after 4 years the first time.
Yeah, and he I mean, that was not even the first time. That was
I know
the
it
third
wasn't
time.
the first time, but it was the first time that he went to jail for it, and
Yeah.
they should have
He shouldn't have.
let him stay
I
in
mean,
there for 20
Why
years.
didn't he go to jail for the second one at least? The first one, they were like, actually, we're gonna drop these charges. We're not gonna press the charges because probably just because it was a whole situation for this poor 15-year-old girl.
Right.
But the second one, they do press the charges, but he gets a deferred sentence.
Stupid.
Like, what? Also,
Maybe
I'm
we
just
should
saying, like,
stop doing
I
that.
do think that, and it's still not Denise's fault that he did terrible things, but I just feel like she should have known and therefore shouldn't have brought this man around her family.
Unless he lied about it, which he probably did.
It's so illegal. But
He
probably would have.
not necessarily, like, if she knew, maybe he was like, oh, well, she lied, like, I didn't actually, that's why I only served 4 years, I didn't actually do anything, I got let out on good behavior because this was all just a big lie because of whatever reason,
You know what? He worked at fucking Pizza Hut, the worst pizza.
Literally, well, actually, Little Caesars is the worst in my opinion.
No.
But
Because here's the thing: is Little Caesars is cheap, so it's allowed to be worse than other pizzas because
True.
it's like
True.
really fucking cheap.
True.
But Pizza Hut is like more expensive than most cheap pizzas.
You know
And
what's crazy?
I would say that Pizza Hut's pizza, it's more expensive. Like, it's more expensive than Domino's at the least, and it is worse than, like, for like quality for price, it's worse than Little Caesars.
Pizza Hut, everybody I know that is involved with Pizza Hut is a terrible person. So I
Yeah.
just don't
We fucking
eat there
hate
for
Pizza
the
Hut.
I just don't eat there for the principle. I eat Jets pizza. I don't know if y'all have Jets.
I've had Jets. I don't know if we have them where I live. I don't think I've seen one, but I've had it before.
We have them where I live, and we've got
think
one
we
that's
might
like
have
10 minutes from my house, and I love Jets.
Fucking Pizza Hut guy.
Yeah, I fucking hate Pizza Hut, and I fucking hate
Fucking
Michael,
hate them.
and I hope that
Fucking
they
hate
let
you,
him into
Michael.
Gen Pop. We hate you, Michael. I know you're never gonna see
We
this.
hate you,
'Cause
Michael. You're a waste of flesh.
You're a waste of flesh, and you're rotting in prison as you should be.
Like wastes of flesh do.
Yeah,
Bitch.
bitch.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever getting out.
If he does, it's gonna be the last
He'll
thing that ever
die,
happens
it's
to
fine.
him.
It doesn't matter.
Either way, I think either way he's gonna die.
Yeah.
I really do.
That's true.
Generally, when you're sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, they don't let you out on good behavior, though, so that's good. at least.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
And what
But
is good behavior? Because, like, how the fuck are they gonna let you out on good behavior when you did something really bad to get there in the first place? Like,
yeah, like,
yes, he
is
did
his good
sexually
behavior
assault
ever going to
somebody.
be good enough to make up for the bad behavior?
No. Like, yes, he did SA somebody, and he's only been in here 4 years, but he's really nice to us. Like, what the fuck? Like, no, keep his ass in
Honestly, I
there.
mean, part of it
Lock
probably just
him
has to
up,
do with prison overcrowding at that point because,
probably.
I mean, that's a huge reason that a lot of these guys get out, right? Because, like, they're like, well, we don't have space and you're not as bad as this other guy.
I hate him.
He's really, let's talk about how bad people are ugly again for a second. Let me
I was gonna
send you
say,
this.
let me see this man. Let me see this absolute waste of flesh. This winner of a man. Jesus Christ.
Literally hideous, bro.
I don't know what I was expecting, but that is so much worse.
I
Why the
know.
fuck does he look like that?
And Brooke was just like,
He is a waste of flesh. Look at him.
she looks like pretty much every 12-year-old girl in the 90s, not gonna lie. But like I mean, she clearly looks like this
that's a
sweet,
baby.
loving girl, you know?
That's a baby. This fucking guy, though.
And she liked
this
watching Hannah
absolute
Montana. I
Queen.
loved Hannah Montana.
Queen, me too. And SpongeBob, she was a woman of a
SpongeBob.
girl of taste, a child
And
of
she
taste.
liked to read.
I love reading. She loved
Brooke,
to
you would
read.
love the Hunger Games.
Brooke, I'm so sorry that this fucking rat existed.
Brooke, you would have loved Divergent.
Brooke, I'm so sorry that you had a fucking sewer rat as an uncle. I'm so sorry.
Truly.
Look at him. I'm sorry. I'm just so mad about his face. Like, what? He looks like a waste of flesh.
He is.
Well, I know he
Literally
is.
what he is.
He looks like he just crawled out of the sewer. How the fuck are you gonna be in your trial and still looking greasy as hell?
He's honestly like so nasty, and he's
I
what?
wanna
Why
punch
they
him.
always got that fucking face?
They
I
all
don't know.
look the
Sorry.
same. I don't know. All I know
And
is
here's
that
here's
I
her
wanna
dad
punch him.
walking with some supporters,
Oh,
and he just I mean his face
he
just
looks.
looks heartbroken.
I
to
was
me.
gonna say
Like
that
everybody
is the
else
face,
is like there for him, but he looks heartbroken.
and he is,
He
and
is.
it's understandable, not understandably. It's understandable why he's heartbroken because his baby was taken away from him by somebody that he thought he could trust, and it just breaks my heart to see
It's
a dad
just-
like that.
And then there were
If
these
you-
like signs.
If y'all have good
people were
dads,
putting up while they were searching for her because they didn't know she was like dead yet.
oh,
So sad.
that's
And I
so
think that's
sad.
I think that was just like community, like there were just those everywhere.
Yeah.
And
Oh
it's
my
just so
God.
sad.
He probably fucking saw those and got some
Yeah.
sick enjoyment out of that.
Well,
That's
it
disgusting.
was like I want to say he was arrested like what was it, 3 days? I don't remember the dates. I think he was arrested, what did I say, the 29th? And he killed her on the 25th. So he was arrested 4 days later.
But
Let me
still.
make sure. Yeah, so he was arrested on the 29th. So it was 4 days later that he was arrested. So those were probably up during that time because they didn't find her body for a week. So there's still the hope that she would like be able to come home until then.
Ugh.
And it's just
It's so sad and it's so disgusting.
and this was I mean, like I said, this is a very small like community. They're all close. I mean, the vice principal had words about her,
Right.
And like her teacher is her friend's mom. Like it's a very close-knit community. Everyone who was in that community had something good to say about this girl.
Right. Because she was a
It's
child.
just- yeah, but I mean, everybody like knew her and knew she was like a super bright soul sort of thing. So it's just
It's sad. It's really sad. It's disgusting. And I'm glad that he's never going to see the light of day again. And he shouldn't.
him and Denise, they did a divorce too. So she divorced
Obviously.
him at some point. But the other thing is, even after they divorced, Brooke's father like sued Denise. He was like, "You should have known better. You should not have brought this man into our lives. You should have told everybody what he did if you knew. And I think you did know, is sort of the thing. He was like, I think you knew, and that you didn't
Care.
do anything about it.
And that's another thing, is some women, not going to name any names, but some women
are enablers.
They are enablers, and they know. And sometimes they see it happening, and they don't say anything because they would rather have a man than their child. Waste of flesh. See you in hell, Buster.
But yeah, I know this is a shorter episode than normal. I wanted to cover it since I know how small it is. Even though it's solved, I still think that it's one of those things where just keeping that memory alive. And I mean, when I post the pictures, this girl just looks so sweet, and it's so heartbreaking what happened to her. And more people need to hate Michael.
I agree. I think that everybody on this planet should hate Michael.
Yeah, I think that it's one thing my friend was saying is, I mean, they still like report on this case in the place that it happened because it was huge for them.
And for small towns,
I think that outside of there, it's not as big. It's like it got a little more publicity like while she was missing than it did any time other than that, because when they thought she was missing, they thought she was gone with like somebody she met online at first. So it was reaching more people at that time.
Right.
Trying to find, who's this person she might have met up with. But then once they realize, it's actually this guy who's right here.
Yeah.
Then I think the publicity really probably dwindled down at that point. And I never heard of it, but there's probably millions of cases I've never heard of. So.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I'm going to learn about new cases all the time. I still do.
Yes, because people can be sick. Yes, the one that we're doing next week, which is still currently unsolved.
Yes. I don't know if you've done a whole lot of research on it.
Hopefully a little.
There's enough to go on.
A little. If there's not, I will let you know. I've been con crunching because con is this weekend. So once that is over with.
At the very least, even if we can't make a full episode out of it, we could at least talk about it at the beginning of the next episode or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I do really want to raise awareness to that. And it
that
was
one
actually...
again is, I mean, to my knowledge, that one's not very big either.
No, it's not. The Instagram account only has like 2,000 followers,
yeah.
Which I feel like there needs to be more attention drawn to it, given that this case is still unsolved, and it was actually sent to us on our Instagram.
Yeah, they reached out, since we're a true crime podcast, and I was like, I don't think we have that many people listening to us, but we'll still put it out there as much as we can. I just can't guarantee a whole lot of
traction,
but hopefully we're able to help a little.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that I find enough.
Especially, with unsolved cases like this, is just getting it out there, because it's good to hear about the solved ones, and obviously we enjoy knowing what happens to the person who did the bad thing, because we're like, what happened to him? Who did it? Like, we want to know that. But these unsolved ones, the only way they're going to get solved is if somebody says something.
And,
and finds the evidence and figures out who did it. And the only way to do that with some of these things is there's somebody who knows something.
There is.
Somebody has to.
Yeah. And another thing about it is, with the unsolved cases is, yes, with the solved ones, it is amazing to be able to have that closure and know what happened and see justice be given. But with unsolved cases, they don't get that. And it's you want it, because it's if something like that were to happen to one of your loved ones, you would want it to be solved as fast as possible. And this one has been unsolved for 4 years now, I think. So it's not like terribly like unsolved, but it is. 4 years is a long time.
Every minute of those 4 years is probably just hell for that family,
Yes, it is. Every second, I'm sure.
So it may not seem like a long time to us, but I'm sure to them that's 4 years without ever seeing, like 4 years of coming to terms with not seeing him again.
And not knowing
why.
What happened.
And who
or what
did
happened.
It. Yeah. So I think that it's really important that we do some unsolved cases, and I think it's, even if we don't get enough traction, like a whole lot, at the very least, I feel like it, at least we're doing something, we're trying.
Yeah.
And that matters. And
The only
who
way...
knows, maybe like one of the people, even if we have 5 viewers, what if one of those people just happens to be like, I've seen that guy.
Or they notice a detail that somebody else overlooked.
Exactly. Fresh eyes, like new eyes on a case can always change, the perspective and find that new perspective to figure out something that might have been overlooked.
Yes.
And help solve it. And it would be really cool if somebody was like, I was just listening to Horrid and Vicious and I realized I know something about this, and you help that family get that closure they need.
Yeah, it's really important.
And I hope they get it.
I do too.
Sooner rather than later. It's sad how many people, like, they die not knowing what happened to, like, their kid. And it's great if it gets solved eventually, but you want it to get solved during, like, the victim's family's life.
Yeah, sooner rather than later.
So I guess it's a little shorter, and next week's might be a little shorter too, depending on this, but
depending on everything I find. Like I said, if it's too short, then I will just combine it with maybe another shorter case. Maybe I'll do 2 shorter cases.
Oh, that would be kind of cool. I've never seen anybody do something like that on a podcast. That would be actually kind of cool.
That would be kind of cool, but I don't know. I gotta do my research fully and get all my pictures and everything, and just make sure that I have content. Because if I don't, then I'll just do 2, and we'll just do a little double episode.
With that, I guess this is gonna be kind of the end of this episode, and like I said, we'll be back next week. At the very least, we'll have some amount of information on the case that we mentioned here. I mean, you know how desperate that family's got to be, because they DM'd us and we have 4 followers or whatever. So
yeah,
they're really desperate for answers, and I hope that they're able to get them.
I'm going to include the number for the police department, if anybody has information to call.
And the Instagram for
and of
the
course,
account that's about it.
Yes, yep. I'm going to include all of that in that case, and it's going to have its own episode, I guess, whether it's a mini episode or a full, depending on the amount of information I can gather.
Well, I guess with that, we will see everybody next
week.
For, what is it now, episode 4?
Yes, episode 4 next week.
All right. See you guys next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.